Right now, a story is running in the background of your mind. You didn't start it, you didn't agree with it, but it's deciding without asking how you live your life. And that story, it doesn't feel like a belief. It feels like common sense. But most of us never chose that story. We inherited it. And somewhere in the world, that story has a headquarters. A place where it's not just believed, but it's performed.
So when you stand outside the New York Stock Exchange or on Wall Street, you feel like you're at the epicenter of economics, of the markets, of capitalism. But really, you're only actually in the center of one specific story. A story that markets are natural, humans are selfish, that greed drives progress, and that inequality is inevitable. A story that millions of people mistake for reality, for the holy and only truth.
102 bid for
You can almost feel the story people here believe about the world. But here's the thing, stories aren't entertainment. They're software. We run on them. We act them out. And behavioural science is very, very clear. The stories you believe about human nature is the story that you become.
There's a famous set of experiments by psychologist Kathleen Vohs. She gets random members of the public and shows how they react to money. No lectures, no ideology, just subtle reminders of money. In one version, people sit in a room with a computer screensaver showing kind of floating banknotes. In another, a few piles of cash are placed nearby. It's just there, the money is around. Then, researchers watched what happened next. Because when someone struggled with a task, people who had been reminded of money were less likely to help others. Yeah, incredible, right? When asked to work together, they prefer to work alone. They physically move their chairs apart, like same people, same personality, same morals, just a different story activated simply in the background by a bit of money there, a money screensaver. And that's the part we never recognize or say out loud about money. Maximum profit motive, competition, doesn't just change prices, it changes people. It changes how close we sit to each other. Paul Piff at Berkeley wanted to know what feeling richer does to people, okay? Not being richer, just feeling it. So he ran a brilliant experiment using Monopoly. Same board, same rules, except one thing. One player is randomly given twice as much starting money, 2 dice instead of 1, and 2 more rewards for passing go.
How many 500s did you have?
Just 1.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I have 3. I don't know why they gave me so much.
And then the researchers, as researchers do, just watched. And within minutes, the rich player starts behaving differently.
The rich player started to move around the board louder, literally smacking the board with their piece as he went around. We were more likely to see signs of dominance and nonverbal signs of displays of power and celebration among the rich players. All right, we had a bowl of pretzels positioned off to the side. It's on the bottom right corner there. And those rich players start to eat more pretzels.
Try pretzels. I love pretzels.
And as the game went on, the rich players actually started to become ruder toward the other person. Less and less sensitive to the plight of those poor players, and more demonstrative, more likely to showcase how well they're doing.
I have some money. I have money for everything. You owe me $24. Lose all your money soon. I don't buy it. I mean, I have so much money. I have so much money, it takes me forever.
I'm gonna buy out this whole board.
You're gonna run out of money soon. I'm pretty much untouchable at this point.
And when the game ends, they don't say, well, I got lucky, I was the one that was allowed 2 dice. They say, well, I played particularly well. I know I had 2 dice, but I made smart decisions. Like, even though the advantage was handed to them on the plate, they still thought it was their own work that made it happen.
It's not been easy for me. It has not been easy for me. And, you know, I started off in Brooklyn. My father gave me a small loan of $1 million.
You do feel a little scared, but you've got to conquer fear to discover the hidden hero within you. With courage, with self-belief, and the can-do spirit, you overcome any adversity.
Will you bluff it out when you're wrong, or will you apologize? Will you guard your heart against rejection, or will you act when you fall in love? Will you play it safe, or will you be a little bit swashbuckling?
Because it's not wealth that changes people, it's a story that forms around having wealth. I earned this, I deserve this, I'm better. In other experiments, the same effect shows up. So lab studies, Paul Piff and his team were studying the feelings of wealth and status and how they affect behaviour, right? And especially entitlement and empathy. And in one set of experiments, adult participants were brought into a lab and subtly made to feel like higher status or lower status, like sometimes by comparing themselves to richer or poorer people, or playing rigged games like the Monopoly one that made them feel like winners, or being reminded of their relative advantages. But crucially, this wasn't about being rich, it was just about feeling rich or superior. And after completing the tasks, right, the participants were left alone in a room, and on the table was a bowl of sweets. And they're told something like, just neutral, kind of like, these sweets are intended for children who will be participating in a study later. And they were left alone. No one was watching, no punishment, no reward, just a moral choice. And the result showed that the participants who had been made to feel higher status were significantly more likely to take sweets. Same room, same sweets, same instructions. Different story running in the heads of each type of participant. And why this matters and why it's so damning is that this wasn't an emergency situation. This wasn't anyone with real hunger, with real need, with real desperation for the food. It was entitlement. The moment people felt, I'm doing well, I'm above average, I've earned my position, they unconsciously felt more entitled to shared resources, even when those resources were explicitly reserved for someone more vulnerable. And that's why this finding lands so hard, because it shows that moral behaviour isn't fixed, empathy isn't guaranteed, and advantage quietly rewrites what feels acceptable.
In the end, we are our choices. Build yourself a great story.
So when you say about the rich, they literally take sweets from children, you are not being metaphorical. You're not being rhetorical. You are describing observable behaviour in controlled experiments. And that's not because people are evil. It's because of the story people tell themselves about what they deserve. There's a legendary study by Frank Gelovich and Regan, and they discovered that students who study mainstream economics become more selfish, more competitive, and less cooperative the longer they study economics. Not because they were born that way, but because the story in mainstream economics is humans are selfish, rational actors, which becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that means economics education isn't teaching behaviour, it's installing it. Because every society runs on myths. Today we have, if someone is rich, they must be talented.
When it's tough, will you give up, or will you be relentless?
But the behavioural truth is, if you tell people a story of competition, they become competitive. If you tell people a story about selfishness, they become selfish. And the idea that humans are selfish by nature, every single study on cooperation, trust, fairness, and communal living says the opposite. Humans aren't selfish. Humans are contextual. We become the story we are told.
So the real question isn't, is greed good? The real question is, what story do you want to become? Because whatever story you choose next, that's the world we're going to live in. That's very slippy, be careful.
102 bid for elimination.